Ladies and gentlemen, every single one of us wakes up each morning with the same currency in our hands: time. It doesn't discriminate, it doesn't care where you come from, what you own, or who you know. But what you choose to do with it, that tells the world who you are. You see, most people don't waste time because they have too much of it. They waste it because they've never stopped to ask why they're spending it the way they are. That's the problem. We chase distractions, we chase validation. We say yes to things that mean nothing and no to the things that could actually change our lives. My message today isn't just about time management, it's about purpose. It's about learning to say no, not out of laziness, but out of clarity. It's about having the courage to stop wasting time on what doesn't matter so you can finally invest in what does. Because when we start with why, we stop living by accident and start living on purpose. Time is the most precious and non-renewable resource we have, yet many of us treat it as if it's infinite. We waste minutes like pennies, forgetting that they're what make up the hours, days, and years of our lives. Understanding the true value of time begins with a mindset shift, a conscious realization that every second counts. It's easy to assume that we have tomorrow, or next week, or next year, but the truth is, none of that is promised. The moments we let slip through our fingers are gone forever. We can earn more money, build new relationships, and even repair our health to some extent, but we can never recover lost time. That is why recognizing its true worth is foundational to living a purposeful life. When we begin to see time as our most valuable asset, our decisions begin to change. We stop spending hours mindlessly scrolling on our phones, engaging in pointless gossip, or overcommitting to things that drain us. Instead, we start becoming more intentional about how we allocate our hours. Just like a financially wise person doesn't throw money at every passing impulse, a time-wise person doesn't spend their minutes without purpose. They budget their time in a way that reflects their values, dreams, and long-term goals. Valuing your time requires deep self-awareness. It starts with asking hard questions. Where is my time going? Is it being spent in ways that move me forward? Or am I stuck in patterns that keep me stagnant? Many people live reactive lives, constantly responding to emails, notifications, and the agendas of others rather than creating their own path. This kind of lifestyle is not only unproductive, but deeply unfulfilling. When you understand the value of your time, you stop being busy for the sake of being busy and start being effective. Time isn't just measured in clocks and calendars, it's measured in opportunity. Every hour you waste is an hour you could have spent learning, growing, connecting, or creating something meaningful. Even rest and relaxation have value when done intentionally, but there's a difference between mindful rest and mindless procrastination. The former recharges you, the latter robs you. The more clearly you understand the opportunity cost of your time, the more motivated you'll be to protect it from meaningless use. Another key aspect of valuing time is learning to separate what is urgent from what is important. Often, we let urgent things, emails, texts, other people's requests, steal time from what truly matters, like building skills, nurturing relationships, or working on long-term goals. We feel productive because we're busy, but that business is a trap. It creates the illusion of progress while keeping us stuck in a cycle of distraction. When we start placing higher value on long-term fulfillment over short-term urgency, we begin to reclaim our lives. One of the most powerful signs that someone understands the value of their time is that they treat it with respect. They show up on time. They plan their day. They avoid drama and low-value activities. They invest their time in people and pursuits that add meaning to their life. These individuals know that where their time goes, their life goes. They are no longer pulled in every direction by the world around them. They've taken control of their minutes, and by doing so, they've taken control of their future. To reach this point, one must practice saying no to things that don't align with their values or priorities. Time is not just about quantity, it's about quality. Spending 10 minutes deeply focused on something important is worth more than an hour of half-hearted effort. When we learn to measure time by impact instead of duration, we start maximizing its potential. Living with an awareness of time's value doesn't mean becoming rigid or overly scheduled. It means becoming intentional. It means waking up each day with a sense of direction and purpose. It means asking yourself daily, is what I'm doing right now bringing me closer to the life I want to live? If the answer is no, then something needs to change. Time is the soil in which the seeds of our future are planted. Waste it, and you grow nothing. Use it wisely, and you create a life that is rich with meaning, growth, and contribution. Ultimately, understanding the value of your time is the first step toward reclaiming your power. It's a declaration that your life is too important to be spent on things that don't matter. Once you see time for what it truly is, not just minutes and hours, but the very fabric of your existence, you will begin to live differently. You will begin to live fully. In a world full of noise, expectations, and distractions, identifying what genuinely matters to you is both a personal and powerful journey. Too often, we allow society, social media, family, or peers to define what success, happiness, and fulfillment should look like. We follow trends, chase recognition, and strive for goals that aren't even ours to begin with. The result is a life that may appear full on the outside but feels empty on the inside. This is why it's essential to pause, reflect, and discover what truly matters to you, not to the world, but to your soul. Knowing what matters begins with self-inquiry. It requires you to look beyond surface-level desires and examine what brings you meaning, peace, and a sense of purpose. It may be your family, your creative work, your spiritual growth, making a difference in someone's life, or building something meaningful from the ground up. Whatever it is, it must come from within. Without this clarity, we risk spending our lives climbing ladders that are leaning against the wrong walls. Many people live reactively, guided more by circumstances than by conviction. They get caught up in the business of daily life, work obligations, social media scrolls, without ever asking if these things are contributing to their deeper values. Identifying what matters to you requires you to rise above the noise and ask yourself hard questions. What do I stand for? What makes me come alive? What legacy do I want to leave behind? These questions aren't answered in a single afternoon. They require space, honesty, and sometimes even discomfort. But the answers are worth everything. When you gain clarity on what matters, you begin to live by design rather than by default. You make decisions based not on what's popular or convenient, but on what aligns with your core values. You become less distracted by what other people are doing because you are anchored in your own mission. You understand that your time, energy, and focus are limited, and you guard them with intention. Clarity breeds confidence. Once you know your why, you stop chasing everything and start choosing with purpose. It's important to understand that what matters will look different for everyone. There is no universal template for a meaningful life. For some, it might be building a successful business. For others, it could be raising compassionate children or pursuing artistic expression. The key is that it must be authentic to you. Living someone else's dream will always feel like a burden, no matter how shiny it appears on the outside. When you prioritize what genuinely matters, you begin to experience a deeper kind of fulfillment. This fulfillment doesn't come from applause or external validation. It comes from knowing that your life reflects your true self. Even when things get tough, you feel grounded because you know you're walking a path that resonates with your heart. You are no longer just surviving or drifting. You are living with direction and intention. This clarity also makes it easier to let go of what doesn't matter. You stop attending events that drain you just to please others. You stop overcommitting to tasks that don't contribute to your growth. You stop comparing yourself to others because you know their path is not your path. This kind of letting go is not selfish, it's essential. It creates space for what truly belongs in your life. When you hold on to everything, you have no room for the things that count. But when you let go of the unnecessary, you make space for the extraordinary. Another benefit of identifying what matters is that it sharpens your focus. In a world where attention is constantly being pulled in 100 directions, focus is power. When you know what's important, you don't get easily sidetracked. You begin to build habits, routines, and environments that support your goals. You start saying yes to the right things and no to the wrong ones, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Your focus becomes your filter, allowing you to move with greater speed and precision. Ultimately, identifying what matters to you is about honoring your truth. It's about having the courage to listen to your inner voice, even when it goes against the crowd. It's about living a life that feels right, not just looks right. Because when you know what matters, you stop wasting time on things that don't. You stop filling your calendar and start filling your soul. You stop performing and start being. And that, more than anything, is the beginning of a meaningful life. Learning to say no without guilt is one of the most liberating and empowering skills a person can develop. It's not just about turning down invitations or declining responsibilities. It's about protecting your time, energy, and purpose from being scattered across things that don't align with your goals or values. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear rejection, disappointment, or being seen as unkind. But every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you are, by default, saying no to something that does. At the heart of this struggle lies the need for approval. We are often conditioned to please others, to be agreeable, and to maintain harmony at all costs. But this people-pleasing mindset can slowly erode our own identity. When we say yes out of guilt, obligation, or fear of judgment, we give others control over our schedule and ultimately our lives. Learning to say no with confidence is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of self-respect. The first step in learning to say no is recognizing that your time and energy are limited. You cannot do everything. You cannot be everything for everyone. The more you try, the more overwhelmed, resentful, and disconnected you become. Every yes you give should be deliberate, thoughtful, and aligned with your priorities. If it's not, then that yes becomes a silent betrayal of your own needs and aspirations. It's important to understand that every no makes room for a more meaningful yes. When you decline something that doesn't serve your goals, you open up time and space for things that do, whether it's deep work, quality time with loved ones, personal development, or simply rest. In this way, saying no is not about rejection. It's about direction. It's about guiding your life intentionally instead of letting it be shaped by outside forces. Of course, saying no isn't always easy. It can bring discomfort, especially when you're turning down friends, family, or colleagues. But discomfort is not the same as wrongdoing. Growth often requires the courage to face uncomfortable moments in service of a better future. When you say no with clarity and kindness, you not only respect yourself but also model healthy boundaries for others. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. There's also a myth that saying no burns bridges or closes doors. But in truth, most people respect those who respect themselves. A well-placed no communicates strength, clarity, and purpose. It signals that you are someone who values your commitments and doesn't take them lightly. And when you do say yes, it carries more weight and sincerity because people know it comes from a place of authenticity, not pressure. Another key to saying no effectively is understanding that you don't owe anyone an elaborate explanation. A simple and direct response is often more powerful than a long-winded excuse. I appreciate the offer, but I can't commit right now, or that's not something I can take on at the moment. These are respectful, clear, and firm responses that don't leave room for negotiation or guilt. You're not being rude, you're being real. Practicing the art of saying no also helps you become more intentional about what you say yes to. You begin to evaluate requests through the lens of your values, goals, and current capacity. You ask yourself, does this align with where I'm going? Will this drain or energize me? Am I doing this because I want to or because I feel like I have to? These questions help you make decisions that are rooted in intention rather than impulse. Over time, as you grow more comfortable with setting boundaries, you begin to notice a shift. You feel less stressed and more in control of your life. You have more time for things that truly matter. You begin to live with greater focus, freedom, and fulfillment. And the people who genuinely support you will respect your decisions, even if they don't always agree with them. Ultimately, learning to say no without guilt is about honoring your life. It's about refusing to trade your time and energy for short-term approval at the expense of long-term peace. It's about choosing depth over distraction, alignment over obligation, and meaning over noise. When you learn to say no with confidence and kindness, you stop living on other people's terms and start living on your own. And that shift changes everything. Distractions and energy drains are the silent killers of purpose, progress, and peace of mind. In today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, they come at us from every direction: notifications, emails, endless scrolling, toxic relationships, unnecessary obligations, and even our own overthinking. If we don't learn to eliminate or manage them, they will slowly erode our time, steal our focus, and leave us feeling exhausted yet unproductive. Eliminating distractions and energy drains isn't just a productivity tactic, it's a necessary step in reclaiming your life. Many people underestimate how much they are losing to distractions. It's not just the time you spent checking social media or watching random videos, it's also the time it takes to refocus afterward, the mental fatigue it creates, and the momentum it breaks. Studies show it can take more than 20 minutes to regain deep focus after an interruption. Multiply that across a day and you've lost hours, not just in time, but in clarity and efficiency. This is why it's essential to take an honest look at your habits and surroundings and identify what's constantly pulling you away from what matters. Eliminating distractions starts with awareness. You must begin to observe your daily routines with curiosity and honesty. What are the things you do mindlessly that add no value to your life? When do you feel most scattered or drained? What triggers those behaviors? Sometimes distractions are not just external, they can also be internal, like procrastination, perfectionism, or negative self-talk. Becoming aware of these patterns is the first step to breaking free from them. Once you identify your main distractions, the next step is to set boundaries around them. For digital distractions, this could mean turning off non-essential notifications, limiting your time on social media, using focus apps, or having specific times of day when you check your messages instead of reacting to every ping. The goal is not to eliminate technology, but to control your use of it rather than letting it control you. You create the rules, and your devices should follow them, not the other way around. Energy drains can be a bit more complex. as they often involve people, commitments, and environments. Toxic relationships, for example, are one of the biggest sources of emotional exhaustion. If someone consistently disrespects your time, brings constant negativity, or makes you feel small, they are costing you more than just emotional peace. They are taking away your capacity to focus, create, and grow. Letting go of such people, or at the very least creating firm emotional boundaries, is crucial for your well-being. The same applies to overcommitment. Saying yes to too many things out of guilt or obligation spreads you thin and leaves you no time for deep, meaningful work or self-care. Every commitment you make comes with a cost, and if you don't calculate that cost in time, energy, and attention, you'll end up bankrupt in all three. Prioritize what truly aligns with your values and goals, and don't be afraid to step back from what no longer serves you. Clutter in your physical space can also act as a hidden energy drain. A messy environment often creates a messy mind. Clearing your space of unnecessary items, organizing your work area, and designing a space that supports focus can have a surprising impact on your mental clarity. Minimalism isn't about having less for the sake of it. It's about creating space for what matters most. One of the most powerful ways to protect your time and energy is through rituals and routines. When you create daily habits that support your priorities, such as morning routines, focused work sessions, or time blocks, you reduce the need for constant decision-making and make it easier to stay on track. Routines act as a buffer against chaos and help you maintain your momentum even when life gets unpredictable. It's also important to build in time for rest and recovery. Not all energy drains are bad. Sometimes you're just tired because you've been giving your all. The key is to balance effort with renewal. Intentional rest, whether it's sleep, meditation, a walk, or simply doing nothing, helps recharge your mental and emotional batteries. Without recovery, even your most productive efforts will eventually hit a wall. Ultimately, eliminating distractions and energy drains is about choosing your life instead of reacting to it. It's about reclaiming your time, protecting your focus, and preserving your mental and emotional capacity for the things that truly matter. It's not about being perfect or always on. It's about being intentional. When you take back control of what consumes your attention, you take back control of your direction. And from that place of clarity and strength, you can build a life that reflects your deepest values, not just your daily habits. ChatGPT said, aligning your daily actions with your long-term purpose is one of the most transformative shifts you can make in your life. So often, people live in contradiction, holding deep dreams in their hearts, but making daily choices that don't reflect them. They want to be healthy, but eat poorly. They want to be successful, but procrastinate. They want to live a meaningful life, but spend their time on distractions. The disconnect between what we say we want and what we consistently do creates frustration, regret, and eventually resignation. Real progress begins the moment you start bridging that gap. Your purpose acts like a compass. It gives direction, clarity, and meaning, but that compass is only useful if your actions are moving you toward it. Every day, you make countless small decisions. While they may seem minor, these decisions compound over time. The way you spend your mornings, the things you prioritize, the people you surround yourself with, the habits you practice, these daily choices are either bringing you closer to your purpose or pulling you further away from it. Aligning your actions with your purpose begins with clarity. You must know what your purpose is, not in some vague, abstract sense, but in a way that feels personal and tangible. Purpose doesn't have to be grand or world-changing, it simply has to be real to you. It could be building a business, creating art, helping others, raising a strong family, or becoming the best version of yourself. Once you're clear on what you truly want and why it matters to you, then the next step is to look at your day life and ask, does this reflect that purpose? This kind of self-audit can be eye-opening. You might discover that much of your energy is being spent on things that have little to do with your core purpose. You might find that your habits are reactive rather than intentional. The truth can be uncomfortable, but it's also empowering, because once you see the disconnect, you have the opportunity to change it. You're not stuck. You're simply in a pattern, and patterns can be rewritten. It's also important to realize that alignment isn't about perfection. You don't have to live every minute of your day with hyperproductivity or intense focus. Alignment means that overall, your time and energy are flowing the direction of your greater goal. Even small steps count. Writing a paragraph, making a phone call, learning a new skill, having a meaningful conversation, all these things matter when they're connected to a deeper purpose. What matters is not the pace, but the direction. A building alignment requires discipline, but not the kind fueled by pressure or guilt. It's a discipline rooted in devotion to your dreams, your values, and your future self. It's the quiet choice to show up even when it's hard, to stay focused even when it's tempting to drift, and to honor your vision even when no one else sees it yet. That kind of discipline isn't about force. It's about love. You show up for what you love. You protect what you believe in. One of the most practical ways to create alignment is through intentional planning. This doesn't mean filling every hour with tasks, but rather being conscious of what your time is being used for. Start your day by identifying 1 or 2 actions that directly support your long-term goals. They don't have to be massive, just meaningful. When you consistently take aligned action, no matter how small, you build momentum. And that momentum creates progress, and that progress creates belief. It's also helpful to regularly reconnect with your purpose. Life gets busy and it's easy to drift. Set aside time weekly or monthly to review your goals, reflect on your values, and evaluate your direction. Ask yourself, what am I working toward? Are my actions reflecting that? What needs to shift? These questions help you stay grounded and adaptable. They prevent you from waking up years later wondering why your life feels disconnected from your dreams. Remember, you're always voting with your actions. Each day is a ballot cast for the kind of life you want to build. When your actions align with your purpose, you experience a deeper sense of fulfillment, not because everything is perfect, but because you know you're on the right path. You feel the quiet satisfaction of living with integrity, of honoring your own truth, and of becoming the person you were meant to be. Alignment doesn't guarantee that the journey will be easy, but it does ensure that it will be worth it. Because when your daily actions reflect your deepest intentions, you no longer feel like you're wasting time. You feel like you're investing it. You're not just going through the motions. You're creating a life of substance, meaning, and direction. And that is a life well lived. Embracing progress over perfection is one of the most powerful mindset shifts you can make if you want to stop wasting time on things that don't matter. Perfectionism is often disguised as a desire to do your best, but at its core, it's rooted in fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. This fear keeps people stuck. It tells them not to start until everything is certain, not to act until the conditions are ideal, not to speak up unless the words are flawless. And in the process, life passes by. Opportunities are missed, growth is delayed, dreams are shelved indefinitely. Perfection is a myth, and chasing it is one of the greatest forms of wasted time. Progress, on the other hand, is real. It's measurable, visible, and attainable. It's the foundation of all meaningful achievement. When you shift your focus from perfection to progress, you begin to move forward. You stop worrying about how polished things look and start caring about whether you're learning, improving, and evolving. This shift creates momentum, and momentum is what leads to mastery. One of the main reasons people get stuck in inaction is because they hold themselves to impossible standards. They won't write the first page unless they're sure the entire book will be brilliant. They won't start a fitness journey unless they can commit to it flawlessly. They won't try something new unless they know they'll succeed immediately. But the truth is, success is rarely immediate. Every expert was once a beginner. Every masterpiece started as a messy draft. Every transformation began with a small, imperfect step. Waiting for perfect conditions is just another way to procrastinate. When you embrace progress, you give yourself permission to be imperfect, to learn as you go, to fail forward. You realize that mistakes are not signs of inadequacy. They're essential parts of the process. They teach you what works, what doesn't, and where you need to grow. Without failure, there is no feedback, and without feedback, there is no real progress. This mindset also frees up a huge amount of emotional and mental energy. Perfectionism is exhausting. It creates constant anxiety, self-doubt, and a crippling fear of being seen as flawed. Progress, by contrast, is energizing. It shifts your focus from proving yourself to improving yourself. You become more resilient, more adaptable, and more confident because you're no longer chasing an illusion. You're working on becoming better, one step at a time. Another benefit of embracing progress is that it encourages consistency. When the goal is perfection, every setback feels like a failure. But when the goal is progress, every step, no matter how small, counts. You learn to celebrate effort, persistence, and growth. You stop abandoning goals because they aren't unfolding exactly as planned. Instead, you adjust, recalibrate, and keep moving, and in the long run, consistency beats intensity every time. A little progress every day adds up to massive change over time. This approach also builds a healthier relationship with time. Perfectionists often feel like they never have enough time because they believe everything must be done flawlessly. This mindset leads to burnout and paralysis. But when you embrace progress, you start using your time more wisely. You stop overanalyzing and start doing. You stop polishing endlessly and start producing. You learn that done is often better than perfect, and that progress made today is more valuable than perfection pursued tomorrow. It's also worth noting that people connect more with your authenticity than your perfection. Whether you're building a brand, leading a team, raising a family, or simply showing up in your daily life, others are inspired by your honesty, vulnerability, and willingness to grow. Trying to appear perfect creates distance. Being real builds trust. When you model a progress-oriented mindset, you give others permission to do the same. You create a culture of growth, not judgment. Ultimately, progress over perfection is a mindset of courage. It takes courage to show up, to take imperfect action, and to risk failure in the name of growth. It takes courage to be seen trying. But that courage is what leads to breakthroughs. That's what builds character. That's what creates results. If you want to stop wasting time on what doesn't matter, stop obsessing over getting it all right and start focusing on getting it going. Start small, start messy, start scared if you have to, but just start. Progress isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and unseen. But over time, it becomes undeniable. You'll look back one day and realize you've come so far not because you were perfect, but because you kept going. That's the power of progress. And that's the path to a life that truly matters.